Okay, with that said, Jeff, I'm going to let you come up and start talking about the measuring part of our biggest challenge, and then introduce your wonderful partner with Buxton.
Thank you so much. Okay. Okay, thank you for being here. We are thrilled to have you in Kingsport, and I hope you've had a great time. I hope that you've enjoyed Bays Mountain. And as we heard yesterday from some of the folks, that it's not about buildings, it's not about inanimate objects, it's about memories and memorable experiences. And so hopefully you've had that here in Kingsport with the wolf howling and some of the events that we've done. So what I'm going to talk about, hopefully I'm going to put some of this stuff together for you. We've heard a lot of things at the conference, and I'm going to tell you a little bit how we market ourselves and how we measure our success. And then also, Harvey Yamagata from Buxton is going to come up and tell you about psychographics and how we really got some really cool data in an unexpected way. So very quickly, we talked a little bit about this last night. I hope that you've experienced the Kingsport spirit. We've heard from several different folks that they didn't quite know what to think about us. They really didn't know what to expect when they got here, but everybody that they met has just had this enthusiastic reception for you and hoping to make you feel very, very comfortable. And I promise you that happens every single day. When Ramey and Wade came up here in June, we extended the same kind of hospitality. And Lara and Mark Unick, who you probably met last night or have met at some point, are constantly doing that. They were in Ohio and Memphis earlier this week, and so they're just constantly bringing more people here and helping tell that story. Kingsport is a planned community. We were laid out at Harvard Square in Cambridge, Massachusetts when in 1917 there was nothing here. My grandmother, who passed away in 1996 at age 103, I was asking her about how she got to East Tennessee State University. She was in the second class to ever go there. She said, well, she lived in Church Hill, which is west of here. She said, I went to Gate City, Virginia, changed trains, went to Bristol, Virginia, changed trains, and then I went to Johnson City. And I said, why didn't you just go through Kingsport, Mama? And she said, honey, there wasn't a Kingsport. There was nothing here. So in my own grandmother's lifetime, there was nothing here. And so everything has been built from that point on. This is a group of Japanese professors of city planning. I promise you, they showed up at the chamber unannounced from Japan. They stayed at the Days Inn. They walked from the Days Inn to the chamber and wanted an impromptu tour. They were from every north end to the south end of Japan, and they were writing a book on company towns. And they showed up and we gave them a tour. So that doesn't happen very often, but it does show you that there is an interest in the town planning of Kingsport. All right, for all you city manager geeks, Matthew, Lanny. Quickly, the city budget, $212 million, almost $70 million is general fund, police, fire, sanitation. Schools are almost the same as everything else, so we highly, highly value education here, and everything else that you see through here is what we provide: water, wastewater, solid waste, and et cetera. We do not provide electric or gas or cable, okay, so we don't have access to those utilities for measuring. Kingsport Finance, again, for city manager geeks. Property taxes have not been increased in the past 4 years. For 4 years, it's the lowest in 25 years, the sixth lowest in the city's history. Employee pay has increased every year, even the toughest economic times. So we try to remind everybody that it's a relative thing. The Moody's bond rating was upgraded in FY11, which, if you understand how bad the economy has been, to have an upgrade, that's a pretty substantial thing. We've received unqualified audits, national awards for excellence in financial reporting. Taxable value has grown 52%, and we operate at approximately 5% of the self-imposed 10% debt limit, and the legal limit is 20%. So when you hear about the fiscal cliff and you hear about all the cities that are going bankrupt, understand that we are very, very conservative here in the way that we handle our finances. To graphically illustrate that, this is where we are as far as debt service goes for the city. The blue is our self-imposed limit, the yellow is the legal limit. So we don't even scratch the surface of what we really could tap into to be able to do work here. We're very, very conservative in that respect. Okay, why do we care about attracting newcomers? When you look at this chart, there are 95 counties in Tennessee. Sullivan County, which is the county that we're in, had a net natural loss of 1,208 people from 2000 to 2009, and that is because deaths exceed births in Sullivan County. That is an indicator of an aging population, okay? So we were the fastest declining county in Tennessee on a natural basis. When you factor in in-migration, though, we move up to about middle of the pack. So we had a net increase of 1,502. So when you look at the total international and domestic in-migration, that's 3,706 families in that time period. So if we did not have people moving into the county, we would be shrinking. When we talk to folks like folks that we met from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, for example, they were talking about it's shrinking. You know, the support for all of the natural cost of operating the community is shrinking. So we have to grow at a reasonable pace. We don't want to grow too fast, but we don't want to shrink. So we had 6 non-traditional economic development initiatives in 1999. Now remember, in 1997, Eastman Kodak spun off Eastman Chemical Company. And at that point, for the first time in our lives, we thought, what do we do if you don't have to go to Rochester and ask permission to do something? It was like, I've equated it to a parent-child relationship. You know, when your child moves out of the house for the first time and they have to pay their own bills, and they don't have that mom or dad to call back to bail them out, you know, are you going to make it on your own? And the good news is we have found a way to do that. So we came up with higher education is one of our initiatives, recruiting people educated with income, small businesses, because we knew we needed to diversify the economy here locally, leisure, hospitality, and sports tourism. We heard yesterday that until you move here, you're still a tourist, so we wanted to increase that. Redevelopment and sustainability, we've heard a lot about that. And public art, sculpture, music, and cultural amenities are the things that we wanted to focus on. Our higher education initiative, 2009, Harvard University recognized our efforts with the Innovations in American Government Award, and that's because we pay for 2 years of community college for every graduating high school senior in the county that wants to avail themselves of that opportunity. And then they can matriculate that right into a 4-year degree or beyond in our higher education campus downtown. We're the largest city in Tennessee that did not have the presence of a college. You heard yesterday how important it is to have a college for retirees to be attracted. So that's one of the things that we knew we needed to work on. In the 1999 summit, our college degree or higher was 18%. In 2010, it was 32%. So we really dramatically increased our educational attainment. The median age increased slightly. Our over 65 actually decreased a little bit. And if you just think about the natural effect of the aging population, for it to go down is a major effort. Median family income, we kind of discussed this last night, Mike. $30,000 is what it was in 1999, $51,826 in 2010. So it has gone up substantially. And we've learned that education, it's not enough just to educate the current high school graduates. You have to go back to the moms and dads of the current high school graduates and get them to improve their situation as well. So we've provided opportunities for that to happen. The economy in transition, when you drive into town and you see all the smokestacks, you think, well, everybody must work on a factory line. So the real numbers are our white-collar employees are now at 53% of the population and blue-collars at 46%. And when you look at the new products that Eastman came out with, the Triton polyester product that is used to make BPA-free plastic, it's the only product on the market right now that is available. And when Walmart says we're not going to carry any more plastic that has BPA in it, it gets people's attention. And so companies have been knocking the door off of Eastman to get that product. In fact, today in the newspaper it said that the earnings were up 25% for the third quarter compared to last year. So good news in that front. We already knew that we had large employers. We needed to make more diverse decisions, so we focused on small business and entrepreneurship. We heard yesterday about the importance of the entrepreneurs. So now we have more than 75% of our workforce in establishments with less than 9 employees. So the way I typically talk about that is, do you want to have all your eggs in one basket, or do you want to have one egg in a whole bunch of baskets? In case different things change in the economy, you are much more insulated to turns and downturns in the economy. CNN Money Magazine named us 2007 to 9, excuse me, 4 to 7, and then announced it in 2009, fastest small business growth in the nation. So when you see the big plants and the big factories, you don't really necessarily think that about Kingsport. Leisure, hospitality, and sports tourism. Meadowview has 80,000 plus guests per year that come through here, so we hope to make a favorable first impression on you, and hopefully maybe one day you'll go tell somebody else, and they'll come back, and maybe one day they'll actually even consider moving here. There's been $128 million in spin-off private taxable investments. We have numerous national championships here, and of course we saw NASCAR last night. This is the front page of today's paper. You'll notice it's October 26th. The AARC has gotten great coverage here, so expert says tourist towns draw retirees. Across the street is the Aquatic Center. Hopefully you'll have a chance to maybe swing by there at some point and take a look at it. $15 million. It'll have a multi-generational facility with lap pools, exercise pools, warm water therapy pools, and we keep trying to add to that portfolio of amenities. Hopefully you enjoyed your howl with the wolves and got to see that firsthand. So when people come to the area, they don't really have an understanding. So we try to find a way to say, make a quick first impression with them. So we say, what if there were a place where the hottest summer days were like New England or the Minnesota Northwoods, but the winter snowfall was 34 inches less? What if there were a place where the average winter days are like Atlanta, but the summers had 35 fewer sweltering 90-plus degree days? Where the annual high and low temperatures are like California wine country without the fault line? Where the number of 90-plus degree days are half that of the Colorado Rockies, and the winters had 45 fewer inches of snowfall. Where lush green vegetation is naturally maintained by rainfall amounts comparable to the Pacific Northwest. Where nature's beauty unfolds in 4 balanced seasons. Where the natural watershed scored a perfect 100 out of 100. That's equidistant from every major metropolitan area in the eastern United States. That's consistently one of the most affordable places to live. That has some of the nicest, most accommodating people in the world. And you've got Kingsport, Bristol. It's a great place to live. We created a website, First Step, in partnership. We put together a program, $55,000. The city gives to the chamber to run the program. There's also sponsors. Thank you, Eastman Credit Union, for being a great sponsor. And the best way to get your word out there is to have the website. All the information's there. We began to look at the location of our area, midway between New York and New Orleans and Chicago and Orlando, and we found that was very attractive to a lot of folks that are crossing through this area. And I know many of you can say the same thing, but we didn't realize that here locally. 500,000 people live in the metropolitan area, which is large enough to have amenities, but small enough not to have problems like traffic and crime. The caring spirit of the area. When you talk about the Kingsport spirit, the clearest example was the United Way Fund Drive. Every year, we just eclipse our neighbors in how much we give back. And I think that is just so indicative of how much we care so much about what happens to all of the folks in our community. We heard yesterday that clean is the #1 thing. Kingsport's Clean and Green, the household index, which is a Buxton product, Mosaic, 106.3 when the national average is 100. And you can look at some of the other comparables like Knoxville and state of North Carolina and so forth. Tree City USA, Keep America Beautiful affiliate for 32 years. So again, we have a legacy of being a clean city. It's not just good enough to be a cheap place to live. You have to be a low-cost place to live with a high quality of life. So the total all-inclusive property taxes are about 1% on your appraised value. So for a $200,000 home, your city and county taxes combined are about $2,000. When we were in Chicago not too long ago and somebody asked that question, they said, is that a month or a year? And we said, it's a year. And they said, well, you get nickeled and dimed to death for everything else? And we said, no, you don't. As a matter of fact, there's no hidden fees. There's no solid waste, garbage, trash, or recycling fees. We have no special school tax or tuition. There's no special district taxes, no wheel tax, no state income tax on salaries and wages, no personal property tax on vehicles, boats, etc., no vehicle inspection fees, no annual vehicle taxes of any kind. Housing costs are 38% below the national average. Utilities costs are 12% below, transportation 4% below, healthcare 11% below, and you have an internationally accredited police and fire department. So you're not giving up any amenities to move to a quality small town like Kingsport. Tri-Cities Airport, I know a lot of you have expressed a concern about the price or the convenience, but the fact is we have an airport, which is an important thing. I ran into a guy not too long ago that asked me where I was going. I said, Philadelphia. So where are you going? And he said, well, I'm going to Charlotte, to London, to Beijing, to Singapore, to Australia, back to Singapore, to Chicago, Brazil, back to Chicago, back to Tri-Cities. And I can do all of this from this airport. He He said, that's why I moved here from northern New Jersey, because I was tired of being frustrated and exhausted trying to get to the airport every morning. We've heard a lot about the seal of approval. We inventory housing availability within 0 to 14 minutes by price range. We correlate it to the Great Schools rating, which 10 is the highest rating. And then we compare it to our neighbors, so we show that you have options to live here. Cost of living, in 2011, when I last updated this, Kingsport was down, we had $50,000 in Kingsport, was about $129,000 in San Francisco. Now we have actually moved up the slot, and mainly these places have moved down in cost of living because of the housing market. The housing market is so off in those markets that it's caused Kingsport to be a slightly higher cost of living than them. So when we have folks moving here, they say, well, hey, where's the bargains houses? Well, there's not any bargain houses because our house prices haven't gone down. We looked at third-party recognition like MSN Real Estate, IT Magazine, number 55 best places to work. Medical Economics recently named best cities to practice in America, practice medicine in America. And we partnered to create the Happy Foothills of East Tennessee with our Times Digital Group partners, the Times News Media, to create a website where you could go and find information as well. So 1 in 8 workers leave by 6 a.m. You think about a day in the life. My commute to work downtown is 10 minutes. You can be at retailers in 3 minutes. You can be at the Greenbelt walking on an 8-mile Greenbelt in 4 minutes. You can be at multiple restaurants, coffee shops, vet, boarding, grooming, pharmacies, urgent care in 5 minutes. I can be at 2 hospitals with 800 beds, specialists, trauma, emergency, car dealerships with service in 6 minutes. I can be at retirement homes, nursing homes in 7 minutes. Schools, mall, bowling, theater in 8 minutes. Farmers market in 9. Churches, schools, daycares in 10. YMCA and Aquatic Center in 12, Lakefront Park. I can be kayaking in 14 minutes. I can be on top of Bays Mountain in 19 minutes. I can be at the airport and park at the front door in 20 minutes. I can be at the marina with boat storage in 27 minutes. And for just about anything else, you can point, click, and have it delivered to your door. So, it's amazingly convenient when you think about your daily life and how your needs are met in this location. 4 balanced seasons, 5 national parks, 15 state parks in 4 different states, 6 different lakes that you can take advantage of. And one of the things that we take for granted here, but we've been recruiting and people have been asking where the basements are, and we're going, well, they're not building a lot of new basement housing right now. And they're going, but what about what do you do when tornadoes come through? So we found on the Fujita scale on NOAA, this is 56 years of tornado tracks by F scale, and you can see the probability of being hit here compared to other places. So we also have to figure out a way to impress upon folks that we are environmentally sensitive, even though we have large industry in town. So we pulled the health ratings from best places. Water quality, you see, compared to these other places, Boston is 1 out of 100, with 100 being best. And then you go up to Kingsport, air quality, Superfund sites, 100's best, and then physicians per 100,000 population. You've got plenty of options for that as well. House price appreciation, you can go to this website and pull up your area. In our situation, it just went negative at the last quarterly report, when you see a lot of other places have been as much as 46 to 59% off. So we've weathered that storm very well. Unemployment continues to be very high here compared to other places. And overall, we've lost 15,400 manufacturing jobs from 1990 to present. But we had a net gain of 13,500 jobs in other areas, primarily education and health services, leisure and hospitality, and some of those more service-oriented jobs. So it's much more of a balanced, diverse group now. When we do recruiting, we also look at all the education costs, the commute to work, and you'll find that in many of these suburban situations, we favor very well. And again, I share this with you because when you come to Kingsport, it's a real place. It's not a perfect place. Michael, I was glad to hear that Hilton Head has issues because my entire planning career, I've been led to believe that there are no issues in Hilton Head and that we ought to all aspire to be just like Hilton Head. So when I realized that everybody goes through cycles and you have to be prepared for how you're going to manage and deal with those, this is one way to show how we are a real place and you too can take advantage of some of this information. U.S. News and World Report lists the best schools. We consistently rank high in that situation. 2 perfect ACT scores within our schools. AP exams are up to 549. Again, we have to impress upon people that we're not barefoot, backwoods hillbillies. Okay, they make some assumptions. So we have to demonstrate that you can get a world-class education here. Just real quickly, we kind of go big or go home. Up here in the upper right-hand corner, Macy's Day Parade on CBS. And so it's not unusual to see some fun things that happen here. We also look internationally. There's a PISA test, which is related to the ACT family. And our school's ranked 4th in the world in math, 4th in science, and 3rd in reading. So that's very impressive to the international folks that Eastman is recruiting. Okay, so measuring results. Why do we measure? We are a Malcolm Baldrige community, which is it's something that we do in the culture here. We've learned from Eastman and from PALS, who are both national winners, that you have to measure and you have to demonstrate what you've done. So I would also say that everything you measure doesn't count, and everything that counts can't be measured. So it's not all about just numbers, but you do have to indicate some measure of success. So we've had 2,918 families that have moved here from all 50 states from July of 06 to 2012. And you see the list of states there. Virginia obviously is close by, but many of the others in the top 10 are not. When you look at metros, we can drill down now using our water taps. We can correlate those to MSA listings, and you'll see it's very diverse. It's from LA to Phoenix, Houston, Dallas, all of Florida, Atlanta, the Carolinas, the Mid-Atlantic with Washington, Baltimore, up to New York, Cincinnati, Detroit, and Chicago. So it's a very balanced portfolio of folks that are moving here. We mentioned last night that redevelopment is a big deal for us, and while nobody moves someplace for a franchise, it's nice to know that those franchises landed on a redeveloped site. Retail sales tax collections are another way that we measure our success. Remember in 1997 when we spun off from Kodak, we were really worried about the economic future. Here's where we are now, the Great Recession that took place the last 3 years, and now we've had an 18% increase since 2002. So we're very pleased with those results. That could have been taken last night, but it wasn't, on top of the bank. So that was the experience that we had last night. In the downtown area, we've seen $42 million in private taxable investment. We get that from the county tax records, publicly available. I'm sure it's available for you as well. And the public, semi-public, non-taxable is about $129 million on top of that. So again, reporting those numbers to folks to demonstrate that we have balance in all things. Okay, let's look at Sullivan County. This is census data going back to 1996. I said in 1997 is when Eastman spun off. 1999 is when we had the economic summit, and we realized that we needed to do something to shore up and recruit people to the area. And you see it's kind of went up and down, up and down, up and down. Well, in 2005, the official Move To program began, and you see now where it has gone. Now, I'm not saying everything is because of the Move To program, but I am saying that by the efforts that are going on, it has encouraged folks to move to Sullivan County. Now, these numbers are a constant geography. They're not influenced by annexation. So when you take the city of Kingsport, 529 net new residential water connections, the census average is 2.3 people per household. Multiply that out, that's 1,217 new residents. And if the UNC Wilmington numbers say $25,000 economic impact per year, do the math, that's $30 million consuming services, creating demand for jobs. That's not bad for a $55,000 investment by the city. And so I can't think of many economic development programs that cost so little that have such a great return on investment. The ways that we look at that, we basically pull all the information from the water taps. We can correlate these zip codes to zip code files, and then we just basically run comparisons. The O means outside the city, the I means inside the city. This is the year, month, and date that they turned their water on. We have a similar report where they turned the water off, so we know where they went. The net difference, we look at that as well, where we say, for example, Bristol, Tennessee had 141 people that turned their water on and moved from Bristol to Kingsport, and we had 100 people that moved from Kingsport to Bristol. So we can look at it any number of ways, and you can look down through Kissimmee, Florida, Kodak, Tennessee, Newport News. I mean, we have a list that's thousands long. We do a monthly report, actually quarterly report now. You can find that at development.kingsporttn.gov/demographics. All of this will be available on the website, so you can go back and kind of reference it. And anybody who wants to call and talk more, I can certainly provide more information about that. Retired Tennessee, and I apologize to Franklin and White counties, I haven't updated it yet. But going and pulling the information from the Census Bureau, looking at Sullivan County here, the 65 and over population change is 14%. But you look at Loudoun County, Cumberland County, Jefferson County, they're up in the 50%, 35% range of over 65 moving into those counties. So while we are a retired Tennessee county, we have not seen a huge influx of retirees. We've seen a huge influx of newcomers, and we've seen some retirees, but it's been a very balanced approach, which is very important to us locally. Will I have a good doctor to serve me? Using the Buxton Physician Intelligence Report, which is one of the features that they have, you can pull all the data of who's available. So when you look at that list, there's very, very few things that you have to leave the region for medical care. Who's moving to Kingsport? Again, this is from Buxton, and it's leading into Harvey's talk here in just a minute. Using the Experian Mosaic Guide, they have 32 groups that everybody fits into somehow. And so just to kind of give you a visual image of who that might be, number one is up here, and then number two is steadfast conservatives, and then you see the list on down, and it's a very diverse group of folks that are actually moving here to Kingsport. It might surprise you to know that if you looked at this area, although it's in the south, most of the people came from the Midwest and Northeast. Number two is Midwest South, and number three is West Coast and Mountain West. So while you happen to live in Northeast Tennessee, you're really from all over the country, and that's important to help newcomers understand that there's going to be people like them that they can integrate with. And this is my final slide, Buxton analysis of in-migrants. Demographically, they said that of all the folks that moved here using those water taps, they're 84% more likely to have children. They're 60% more likely to have a head of household, 35 to 54. They're substantially likely to have incomes over $150,000 a year, and they're substantially more likely to have homes valued over $300,000 a year. So that is definitely adding value to our local economy from the folks that are moving from outside.